that. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Milwaukee Public Library Book Chat. My name is Beth and I am the adult librarian here at the East Branch. My co-host tonight is my esteemed colleague, Amy, librarian, upcoming debut author, an awesome person overall from Good Hope Library. We're just really delighted to be here tonight. You can feel free to use the chat box to interact and to share your book recommendations. We are recording this session, so this will be available to you later too. Everyone can sit back and relax and enjoy our discussion. So, I am just completely pleased to introduce you to Lisa Lin, author of The Year Cecily and the Rachel Experiment. Lisa writes light contemporary romantic comedies with a liberal dash of snark and banter. She enjoys delving into the complexity of Asian and immigrant family experiences and celebrates friendships in her trademark dry, witty style. Welcome to the Milwaukee Public Library, Lisa. We're so pleased to have you.
Thank
How's it
you
going?
so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. You and I have been trying to plan something for so long, and I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Woo,
So
with book
thank you for
two.
having me. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
absolutely.
So, Beth, before
Mhm.
we go any further, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to know, how do you want to handle the questions? Do you want to go in alternate order? You ask one, I ask one. How do you want to make this
Either way.
magic happen? Okay.
Yeah, I can start with or this is your question, Amy, so why don't you go ahead and ask
See,
the
is my
first one?
that one's my I was like, that's a
Is
great
it?
question. I didn't even remember that I asked that one. So yeah, Lisa. So first off, tell us briefly, what do you say when someone finds out you're a writer with a couple of books in print and says, so what are your books about?
Well, I tell them I'm a romance author and I write rom-coms, and I specifically write rom-coms with that feature characters who look like me. Because I do believe in the importance of representation and diversity that matters. So, and basically, I want to write funny books that just take people away for a couple of hours. Like, real life is depressing enough. And there are places for those kind of books, but let me just make jokes about moms wielding cleavers for a minute. So that's kind of what I write.
I love that so much.
Me too. That's a
So,
great answer.
let's assume that most people tonight are here because they love romance, but what would you say to a romance skeptic? Why read the genre?
Because it has something for everyone. If you like historicals, there are historical romances. If you like fantasy, there are fantasy romances. If you like, you know, sci-fi, there are basically it's a wide umbrella, and we only have that one rule. And the only time you ever piss us off is if you break that one rule.
Mhm.
Otherwise, do whatever the heck you want. So there's something for everybody. And we're all human beings. Like, we're all looking for love and relationships. So, and that's what it's all about. So why not check it out?
Mhm. That is the best answer because it's true. There's really like if I'm doing reader's advisory, I definitely start with, well, what other books have you enjoyed? And ones I know, like, oh, I like this mystery or I liked this lit fic. And I'm like, well, let me do my magic and here you go. You'll want to read the Rachel Experiment.
I mean, if you like lit fic and women's fiction, you can read Kristen Higgins, you can read Sonali Deb, like Beatrice Williams, like she does like women's fiction with like romantic elements. So there's something for everybody. And maybe you can explain why, but why do every quarter, why do we have to have that same discussion? Does it have to have a happy ending for it to be considered a romance? Why do we have to have that fight every quarter, Beth? I don't
I
understand.
don't know. Like, do people do that with mysteries? Should we leave the mystery unsolved? Challenge the genre. Like that's
Like, when
that's
was the
that's
last time?
wild. Like no
When
one
was
would
the
say
last
that.
time? When was the last time Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot didn't figure out who did it?
It was like,
Like we
too hard. They
and
don't have that fight. I don't get it, Lisa. I don't either.
and
But
like clockwork, every quarter someone says it's so it's so boring and predictable. It's a romance with a twist. I'm like,
Like
come
literally
on.
the only predictable thing is that the main protagonist will end up together. Everything else, I'm like, every time.
The point is the journey, how they get there.
Yes.
And if you want to Nicholas Sparks your book, go Nicholas Sparks your book. Just call
Somebody
it a
will
love
like it.
story or whatever.
Mhm.
Just don't call it a romance. Because if you do that, we will turn on you with pitchforks. And you
Not
don't
about
want
it.
that. You don't want
Mm-mm.
that.
We don't want the betrayal. And it is Read a Romance
Exactly.
Month, so I'm
Yes.
glad that that argument hasn't been picked up lately.
I'm
Mhm.
imagining
Knocking
now.
on
I'm
the
imagining
wood.
like a horror movie that's a horror movie romance screenplay, like of angry horror writers, like of this fight, and then at the end of this, like lots of blood and but also lots of love, and then they end up together, but after.
There you go.
But a horror movie that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A horror movie rom-com.
Mhm.
I remember Adele Buck was saying monster romance is having a renaissance right now. So there really is
Mhm.
something for everybody. There
Mhm.
really is.
Mhm. I love it. So, do you have a gateway romance novel that sparked like your love affair with the genre or an author? You know, it doesn't.
I was 13. I was at Barnes and Nobles or Borders, one or the other.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Borders. And I remember I was just walking through the bookstore. I was walking by the romance section, and I'm like, who is this Nora Roberts chick who is taking up half the shelf space in the entire section? Right? Who is this Nora Roberts chick? And I ended up picking up one of her McGregor books. And it was just the idea of this 90-year-old Scots patriarch grandfather who was this meddling matchmaker. And I read it. It was funny. It was and I loved it. And I never looked back. I've been reading it for over 30 years now. And it's thanks to Nora. And I'm like, if I'm gonna start, might as well start with one of the best. You know?
I mean, you couldn't have picked a better person because
Yeah.
her backlist alone inspiring. Like, wow. And she
Mhm.
writes
Right?
all of her own books, which is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay. It's sad to me that we have to say that. I'm
Mhm.
just gonna say.
just
Mhm.
like we periodically have to have it does need a happy ending, Nora also has to come out and say, yes, I write all my own damn books. Because
Mhm.
apparently there is this persistent ghostwriter rumor or something. But it makes sense. The woman does nothing except go up to her writing cave and write. Why are you
Mhm.
surprised she puts out 5-6 books a year? That's all she does. She
Mhm.
writes.
She has
She's
her
not
own town. She gets to live in her town.
like
Yeah.
she like yeah, she's not on social media. She's busy making millions.
Mhm.
And I don't know why Boonesboro they just have not renamed it Norville, because she owns Main Street. She has the inn, the bookstore, that her husband runs. Her son has 2 restaurants. She has the gym and she has a gift shop. Boonesboro is Norville. She is single-handedly keeping the town of Boonesboro alive.
Mhm. It's
Have you ever
amazing.
been?
No, it's on my bucket list, Lisa. I need to go. I need to drive through and then come up and visit you. Oh, where are you joining us from for those of our
Oh,
listeners that don't know? We're in
from
Milwaukee, obviously. Me.
Yes, we are.
I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Philadelphia, so that's where I'm coming in from tonight. And I do recommend in Boonesboro. A friend of mine, she won a gift certificate for a stay there, and she invited me to join her, so I got to stay in the Elizabeth and Darcy room. Lovely,
Oh, that's like the
lovely.
dream.
Wow.
That's
But the
so cool.
innkeeper is like, no, you're not going to see Nora because she's busy at home writing. She's not at the inn.
Fair.
People expect Nora to come by and serve them breakfast or something. I don't know.
Fold some towels. Like, no.
She has.
She's busy.
She's very,
Yeah.
very busy.
She's writing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. What a
I actually
titan.
reviewed what in another life before I was a librarian, I actually reviewed one of her books, and it was one with a ghost in it,
Ooh,
and it was really good. And I reviewed it for people.
I'm trying to
Okay.
think. There's a few with ghosts.
Is it the one with the inn, Lizzie, or is it the one with like their dead father, which would be the
It was a
Quins?
long time ago, and it might have been. Do you remember what titles? Give me some titles. I'm awful with names.
Sea Swept, Rising Tides, Inner Harbor, Chesapeake Blue.
Might have been Rising Tide.
Was there brothers that had like a boat business?
Yes. Yes.
Carolina Moon?
There was a forest.
There's
There's
a
so
more.
many.
There was
There's so many. Why don't we look it
Anyway.
up? We
Okay.
can look it up.
Oh,
Now I
good
want to
God.
find
I
out what
can
book
do
this
that.
is.
Yeah, Amy,
All right,
find your article. I love
I'll
it.
see what I can find. All
Because
right.
because the Quins is Chesapeake Bay. That's not Screaming Forest to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on.
Love it. You find that. While Amy's looking for that,
try.
I have maybe a little bit embarrassing question for you. If I ask you about Josh and Donna, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, The West Wing is my first fandom ever. And actually, that is how I actually got my writing start. I started writing fan fiction in high school. Do not ask to read them. They're bad. There's so much head hopping. There's so many exclamation points. It was bad. Bad.
Everyone's got to start, though.
That's how you get good.
But it scratched all my itches. I'm a politics junkie. I was a poli-sci major in high school. It's Aaron Sorkin, who I think is one of the best writers out there. Like, and I love Josh and Donna. I thought Bradley Whitford and Emma Lynn just had incredible chemistry together. I love them, and I still love them. Like solidarity with SAG and the WGA, and then Bradley Whitford and Janelle Maloney tweeted a picture of them, like, on the picket line, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, mom and dad!" I'm like, "Oh, after all these years, they're still together." Not really, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I love that so much.
Yeah. But yes.
Do you have the secret files of those though, like squirreled away for your papers for being wildly famous and have Lisa?
It's my old. It's probably on an old computer, and those stories deserve to die. I'm sorry.
Fair.
They
Very
deserve
fair.
to die.
I love
It was
that.
bad. Bad.
Oh man. So obviously you're an author. I'm assuming a lot of authors have day jobs, and you still do, yeah. You want to share a little bit about that journey?
I am part of what Adele Buck likes to call part of the metric fuck ton of ex-JDs, ex-lawyers in Romancelandia. There are a metric fuck ton of us. And you can bleep that out if like the cursing is inappropriate, but I'm just quoting Adele Buck.
The library, we don't censor.
I did work there for a while, but I just realized it wasn't for me. So I just work from home and I freelance and I help take care of my mom's and the family business and I work from home. So I'm really lucky to be able to do that and do this at the same time. And I'm in the same boat as a lot of other authors because it's hard. And the percentage of us who can actually make this our full-time job is very, very slim. So many of us are juggling writing, day jobs, and kids. So, I remember, I think it was Shanna Galen who would say she gets up at like 3 or 4 a.m. to get in a couple of hours of writing before she has to get her kids ready for school. It's rough, but we all got to do what we got to do. So yeah. But what else could I do? These characters wouldn't shut up. So
and we're glad that they made you write their story.
But
AB, are you still looking?
I am still looking.
Okay.
Because I know that I know when I reviewed, so I'm looking now. I'm going because she has so many. So I'm looking at like the years.
Perfect.
Do you remember any character names, Amy, so we can help you narrow the search?
I'm terrible with names of the. I
Okay.
wonder if it was this one. Hold
Ooh.
on a second. I will. Because I remember the plot when I read it.
Okay.
Because I'm wondering if it was. I don't want to say until I like actually
Yeah.
Well,
find
there
it.
was also the Dream trilogy with Seraphina's ghost with the gold coins.
Nope. And there was a male protagonist who was, I really liked him. He was,
And was it part of a series, or is it a one-off? Do you remember that?
I don't.
Okay.
It'll come
Hold
to
on a
you.
second.
It'll come to you.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
So, do you have any fun like writing traditions or practices or little like rituals that you do to get you like in that mindset and kind of switch gears from sitting at computer for your work for day job and then writing?
Well, actually, what I've realized is sometimes it depends. There's some days I just need to just shut everything down, and then I will get on Twitter and have y'all yell at me, and I cannot come back until I write 500 words. You have seen those tweets, Beth. Like I have done
I
that.
have seen them.
And then people will yell at me, except Zoe Archer, who is a sweetheart, who says, I'm not gonna yell. I will gently suggest that you write, gently admonish you to write. She's a sweetheart. She actually refuses to yell at me. When I'm Asian, I respond to yelling. That is what I do. That is what my mother does. I just have that line incessantly where like Asian moms will just break you through sheer force of will and bend you to their ways, and that is how I was raised. Like, screw that tiger mom, Amy Chua. My mother would chew Amy Chua up and spit her out. Amy Chua, there was nothing. Sorry, a little digression.
That's all right.
But there was sometimes.
Tell us how you really feel, Lisa.
Mama, you know I love you, Mama. But there's sometimes like for when I was writing Rachel, for example, I found this playlist of the best of Mozart, and I would just play that every day. And like you said, Beth, like something about just turning that playlist on and hearing that music kind of just like click something, and then like, okay, it's time to get these words down. So it kind of depends on my mood. Sometimes I will write with a friend, like Leon and I, De La Rosa and I did a lot of writing together while I was writing Rachel's book, and that helps too because I know there's someone on the other end who's going to come back to me in 30 minutes and an hour and say, how did you do? And I better have something. I can't have like wasted for half an hour scrolling and yelling about what's going on Twitter. I need to have written. So that helps. And like you said before, Beth, like writing is really lonely. It's just you and your laptop. So even just having that connection of asking someone on Twitter to yell at me, or just knowing Liana's out there on the other side on her computer writing too, it helps. It helps and not feel so lonely, and it helps to have that support system. You can't get through this without it. Publishing is too hard to do on your own. You need your crew. So you need it.
As more a person on the reader and reviewer side, like just observing some of those practices on my end is so fascinating to me. And then I go, yeah, like I write reviews, and obviously it's not the same at all because I can knock that out in not too long. But it's like I do need to like put my brain into that like mode. And I've noticed like as a very voracious romance reader, I like will forget things immediately if I don't write them down because I'm more of like I remember how it made me feel versus this is this person's name and this is their job.
Doesn't it go back to that Maya Angelou quote? People will forget what you said and what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So, if Dr. Angelou said it, it must be true. And it's always so fascinating. It's so fascinating to me how everyone's process is different. I am a very slow writer. Like 500 to 1,000 words a day is a good day for me. Whereas I remember Lauren Jane would have these epic like weekend of legends where she'd write like 10,000 words over the course of a weekend, and I'm like, Lauren Dane, how? So it's like you said, everybody is just different. Like I could not pull a Lauren Dane if my life depended on it. And and how word makers would have the 20K in 5 days, and I'm like, my brain just melts just thinking about it, and I'm like, more power to you. I wish I could. It's not me. Not me.
So wait, I didn't hear. So you have a day job, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're writing. So and you said do you write like how do you write? Do you like write for an hour in the morning before you go to work? Because I can't do that.
Basically, wherever I have a block of time. So like, I have an hour or two this afternoon. Okay, let me just try to get it out. Like sometimes, like you're a mom. That's like sometimes you can't have. Sometimes don't have the luxury of a set like from 7 to 9 every day. I'm gonna write. Stuff just happens. Stuff just happens. So I just got to take the time where I am, or at the end of the day, it's 11 p.m. and I'm like, crap, I haven't written today. I need to write. Even if it's 100 words, at least I've gotten something. Like, I remember Nora once like gave an interview and she talked about, and it works for her and it works for me. It may not work for others, but she said you have to like it's like exercising. Like writing is like a muscle, and you need to develop the habit of writing. And even if you're having a horrible day and it's like pulling teeth to get those 200 words out, at least you've not broken the habit. And it's true. If I have taken like a week or two when I haven't written, getting back in the habit, starting back up again is like working out after you stop working out. It hurts. It sucks. It sucks. Sometimes you need that break, but it sucks getting back into the rhythm of things. So,
So go for it.
And working out I'm sorry, Beth. I was going to say, but like if you're working out a problem, like if you've got a situation that you're like, for me, and I'm talking to you as a writer, I don't write fiction, so it's really interesting to me because you've got characters and you're moving like those people don't exist and you're moving them forward. And I was writing about a real person, but I was also trying to make a narrative arc, and you're trying to figure out how to tell the story. And so you're not actually sitting at your keyboard writing, but you're walking around and you're like thinking about it all the time. And I think the work can get done that way too.
Oh, absolutely. How many times have we seen like someone say, like, I was washing the dishes and somehow that plot problem just solved itself while I was washing the dishes? Or like I'm in the shower and somehow I knew what the next scene was. And that has happened to me. I think something about just doing something mundane, like you're doing you're washing the dishes. I think it just frees up your brain to be working on it in the background, and somehow it just solves itself.
I think it was author Liz Lincoln, who is a local Milwaukee romance writer, said she keeps a dry erase marker like in her shower because then she can write it down like on the tile, and then she'll lose it in the transition from in the shower to like toweling off and getting to a paper. So I thought that was pretty great.
and then some people have said like just as they're drifting off to sleep, they came up with something, so they scribbled it on the pad, and they wake up the next morning. I'm like, what does this even mean? So that happens too. So, Amy, have you figured out what the book was, or have you quit searching? Because now I'm invested.
So I've given up for now. So what I've decided I'm going to do is, because I can go back into possibly go back into my mother, who died in 2018 when I was going through things. I have a sister who's also a writer, and she and I we're 17 months apart, and wherever she got to write, if she got a gig, she'd get me in it, and I would do the same for her. So I got her into People, and she got me into Publishers Weekly when we were reviewing. And my mother saved everything that ever had either one of our names on it.
Oh,
so
that's sweet.
I found out after she died. So there's a good chance that in a box at home, and I can probably dig through and
We can include it in
find.
our follow-up email with the recording
Right,
link
that's
for
what I
everyone.
figured. Either that or put it under the YouTube link.
No,
that
I am like seriously invested. I need to know what this book was now. I'm seriously invested.
I remember that I gave it a good review, whatever it was, because I did like it. And when I review a book, you know, it's, I mean, it wasn't that I don't actually review a book based on whether I like it. I review a book based on what was the author trying to do and how well did he or she do it,
Right.
or they, because back when I was doing reviews, it was more of a binary world. So what's the writer trying to do, and how well did the writer do that? And that's really the only questions you should ever ask when you're reviewing a book.
Yeah.
Love it. So
I was going to ask you actually, so in the reviews you've gotten, Lisa, what's it like? What's it like to read reviews as an author?
don't do it.
Or do you do it? Do you even do it?
I specifically remember having this conversation with my friends and my agent, like the couple of days before Cecily came out, she's like, I'm telling you now, do not look at your reviews, do not go on Goodreads, do not look at your rankings on Amazon, just do not do that to yourself. Do not.
And I know a few people, they have like a friend who will go through and like pull things and like curate a list to like pump you up, you know, and like those people are gold.
Like, and the thing is, like, the one thing that this one reviewer gushes and loves is going to be the same thing that the next reviewer says is horrible and hates it. So what are you supposed to do with that, you know? And
nothing. You're supposed to just write.
And I honestly have not gone on. Okay, I was guilty. I did look at first, but I've stopped going on Goodreads to reading the reviews, and I am much healthier that way. You know, and it's a little bit different with the Library Journal review or a Publisher's Weekly review, because it's a trade review, and that's a little bit different. But still, you know, even then, like, I remember talking to a reader friend of mine, and she's like, look, even your most favorite authors have gotten awful Library Journal, have not gotten a good Library Journal review, or gotten like ripped apart by Publishers Weekly. It's just part of it. It is, and it could just be something as simple as they gave your book to a non-romance person and they just did not like it, or it could be any number of things, or it could just not be a match. Like, your book just isn't what they respond to, and there's nothing you can do about it. So,
and there are people that it is 1000% going to, and those are your people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so did you get a 2-book deal, Lisa, or did you write one and then the other?
I got when I went on submission with it, we pitched it as like a 3-book series, so I got a 3-book offer. So I'm working on the 3rd one out, which is going to come out next spring, April.
Oh, cool.
2024.
So is that going to be who's going to be that one?
You've already met her.
I figured I had.
It's Jeffrey's sister, Bethany.
Oh, okay. Yay! Oh, Bethany. I like Bethany. She's a sweetheart.
So we meet her a lot in Europe, Cecily.
There was just something about the way that's how she relishes putting the fear of God into everyone that really was like, I like you. I want that energy in my life. I need that energy in my life.
I love it.
And I've gotten people who said they want a book for Adrian too, but for right now,
I was wondering. That's why I was wondering if it was going to be Adrian, but I was curious because there's so much about Asian, just like the ease of the Asian culture experience in here.
And that Adrian is very much an Arroyo. She is not Asian.
Right.
So
yeah.
I love her, and I'm glad readers love her too. But we'll maybe someday down the road, if Julie's interested, I may do like a holiday novella short thing with Adrian. We'll see. But the fact that people are asking at all is pretty damn fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I never expected that to happen. Just like I really didn't expect a lot of people to come see me at Steamy LitCon. I really thought I was going to be sitting at my table at the signing for 4 hours by myself, but that didn't happen. So, yeah.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Let's see. We're coming up on 6:30, so let's talk about the
are?
books a little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
That was quick.
Yeah, I know. 'cause
wow.
I didn't even notice until I just looked in the corner. I was like, oh, it's my job to do that.
Well, you did have the question about the third book in the series, so we have
We've
that.
covered that.
But
Yep.
I really, can we still ask about Iris Chang?
Yes.
Because I interviewed Iris Chang. And I loved that you had Iris Chang.
Oh,
I mean, thank you. I'm gonna cry because it just, thank you so much for that.
she was she was
Oh my
pretty
God.
incredible.
Yeah, give a little context
I'm
for
gonna
everyone who might not know.
You want to go ahead, Amy?
No, you do it. Because
Um,
I'll just cry.
Iris Chang was an Asian American. Like, she was a reporter, she was an investigative like journalist, and she wrote really hard hitting pieces. She did a book about the Bataan like death march during World War II. I believe she also wrote a book about the Nanking massacre.
That's the book I
Yeah.
interviewed her about.
And she was so good. She busted so many glass ceilings. Like, she kept up and researched and wrote circles around all her colleagues. She was phenomenal.
And she was a Midwesterner.
Yes, phenomenal. But unfortunately, it's really understandable. Like, the materials and the topics she was talking about, like, were so really deep and dark, and really difficult. And it ended up like really impacting her and her mental health. And she, I think, as I understand, suicide.
She died,
like,
she did.
Yeah, like, I think she became like really, she developed like anxiety, depression, and all these other mental health issues, and they got the better of her. And I think she deserves to be celebrated for what she was able to do in her short time. I think she left behind a family, and like
she had a husband and a 2-year-old son.
What more she could have done if she had been able to get the help she needed. What more she could have done is just,
Yeah,
that was the first thing Amy mentioned to me when we were, preparing for this. And I was like, absolutely, let's ask Lisa about that. And I loved all of your little sprinkling of references like that throughout the two books too.
Oh, and thank you. I mean,
yeah, did you have a favorite that you included that you really hope people besides Iris Chang like notice? Or
yeah.
Well, I believe I did include a line from Chicago, from the Cell Block Tango. She only had herself to blame. A lot of the times those are just me amusing myself. There are wrestling references in there.
Good for you.
I mean, if I can't amuse myself, what am I even doing? If I'm not having fun with it, I'm going to expect the reader to have
Nobody
fun.
else will.
Exactly.
And I kind of just included my own like experiences. Like, there was that one Lunar New Year where my sister and I both made about $200 in about 10 minutes because all the adults were there, and $20 from this aunt and that uncle and that uncle, that starts to add up. And I'm like 10 at the time, and $200 was like, I'm rich.
A lot of money.
Like, wow.
I can move out.
But I'm no longer long and cute. I'm no longer young and cute, and I don't get that money anymore, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But sad as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But and I also love genealogy, and that is why I included the thing
Oh,
about
that was great.
which is why I included that bit where Cecily hired a researcher for her family tree. I don't know if any of you watched Finding Your Roots with Dr. Gates or that
Mm-hmm.
show from TLC, Who Do You Think You Are? Like, my inspiration from that is like all these celebrities are always just so shocked when they find out they have these scandals in their background. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean Uncle Fred was a bigamist and had another wife and a whole family on the other side of town? What are you talking about? Or, Uncle TJ was born 6 months or 7 months after the wedding, but weighed in at a robust 9 pounds 12 ounces. But the baby came early, but he was 9 pounds 12 ounces. Grandma and grandpa have things to explain. Like, I refuse to believe, I feel like there's always this nonsense nostalgia for how simple and pure and wholesome things were in the 50s. And I'm like, no,
No way.
no. Trust me. Trust me.
Mm-mm.
Teens were getting it on in the back of some Chevys at prom back in the day, just like they're doing now. It's just not. It just wasn't talked about. Girls who got in trouble.
Social media, it was just the hot neighborhood goss,
Like girls who got in trouble, quote unquote, just get sent off to an aunt or grandma until they had the baby. And can we just take a minute and say, thank God I did not have social media growing up in high school or middle school? That would have been a disaster. And Beth, can you imagine? No.
I'm living it with my 11-year-old, so yeah,
Oh,
it's
God, that's
horrible.
awful.
No.
I'm just like, what are you talking about? That's forever,
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
It's so
forever.
much fun.
Teenagers, emotions and hormones run amok with
Mhm.
no real comprehension of long-term consequences.
Well, I'm like, you're 11. Like, you got a lot of life ahead. And like,
It's such a recipe for disaster.
and I'm like,
Gosh.
poor my children. I'm like, your mother knows too much about lots of stuff.
And they just will refuse to believe you when you tell them, honey, I swear to God, you're not gonna care in 5-10 years that you did not get invited to Jenny's birthday party. I promise you, it's not gonna matter.
It's not gonna matter, but
to them it is disaster and the end of the world. And the world is over because they didn't go to that birthday party.
Yep. It's
And
such a roller coaster.
Oh,
Which is why I read a lot of romance novels.
right.
It's because it's very soothing to my soul.
And you can escape.
I mean, but an 11-year-old, the journey is just beginning, Beth. The journey is just beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like practice my deep breathing. All right, I'm gonna pull up our slides here. Give me
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Second here. Share
there you go.
screen and share. Beautiful. Does that look okay?
Yay!
Okay. There's Lisa in the two books. You can put The Year of Cecily and The Rachel Experiment on hold, both in print or on ebook. We'll send you links in our follow-up email. And then I just wanted to show everyone, this is Iris Chang, who we were speaking about. And then just beautiful. I have done a little bit more reading about her now that Amy mentioned how important she was. And thank you again for doing that. That was great. And then I just wanted to point out one of my favorite scenes from your two books. I was like, I'll only pick one to gush about, but I loved the scene in The Rachel Experiment when they're getting ready to go to her sister's wedding, and Luke is like, oh, I have to bring a gift. Like, where's the registry? And she's like, oh, no, you don't do that. And I wanted you just to explain that a little bit more for people, because I had a good chuckle reading about that. Because I wouldn't have known.
I remember like when I wrote that and then Sally Kilpatrick, right? And I wrote it, and especially because a lot of us at this point, they don't like we're getting married later. We've lived our own apartments, so it's not like we really need the stand mixer and the bowls and things like that. So we don't necessarily need it. So why not give cold hard cash and we could pay down some loans or we could put a down payment on our house? And Sally's like, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, how many casserole dishes and colanders does one really need? You know?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Oh goodness. So I just enjoyed that very much. And he just how he stood up for her and took care of her. And another favorite part, which will pivot us nicely into our recommendations, was there is, as all romance readers know, the sickbed scene, and Luke takes care of
Yes, the
Rachel.
chicken soup.
Yeah, but he makes the special chicken soup that his mom gave him the recipe, and all of his family's like, "You made her the soup?" And he's like, "What do you mean I like her? No, I just was helping a friend." And it's like,
it's just sometimes, Beth, to quote Freud, soup is just soup.
But
except not really.
Not really.
It's
not really.
I mean, I did have that fun with that scene where she meets his mother later, and then she tells her that, like, you're the only person he's ever made soup for, and then Rachel's like, wait, what?
It's like,
because she gets it.
So, for book chat here at the Milwaukee Public Library, we like to ask our guests to pick kind of a theme to base some additional book recommendations off of. So, Lisa did caretaking in romance novels. So, why don't you run through your recs? I've got your first 4 here, and then we'll get to your next 4. And for those watching, we'll send you an email with the links for all of these, and you can put them on hold if you are interested in them, because we have them all at the library.
I just need to start by saying, Beth, you and I bonded of our mutual love and squee for one particular Gabriel Sunshine Scott. So,
yes, we did. He's special.
He's special. He's Gabriel Sunshine Scott. So I decided to build the whole theme around the book. So that's how I came up with the theme. And for those of you who have not read Manage, What Is Wrong With You? You must go rectify that and go to the library or go one-click it. Gabriel Sunshine Scott, known as Scotty, who looks like David Gandy, though he hates when anybody mentions it. He is the manager of the most famous band in the world. And the book is basically, but he has a little problem. He can't sleep. And the book begins when he and the heroine, Sophie, end up sitting next to each other on a flight, and there's turbulence, and he's freaking out. And even though they're total strangers, Sophie senses this, and she takes it upon himself to distract him, and do what she calls cuddle therapy. And that is the only time he actually relaxes and gets to sleep. And he is driven to such desperate straits that he pays Sophie to cuddle therapy so he can actually get some sleep. He is actually that sleep deprived.
And she gets to ride on the tour bus. So for Amy, for you writing your tour manager book, this might be a nice romance.
Put it on hold for me.
Okay.
And because he has his own private bus, of course, because it's Scotty and he needs his own private conveyance. He can't just be sharing. He just can't be traveling with anyone, right, Beth? He has to have his own bus.
He's fancy. He wears bespoke suits, but he's a really big nerd.
At one point, Sophie threatens to destroy his suits, and he is horrified. Even you wouldn't be that low. I mean, when he insinuates that it's like that he's wearing polyester or something, he's like, "That is so mean." He is so offended by the idea that polyester would ever touch his body. No,
he's very fancy.
No,
and she's very not fancy, and it's just a delightful book.
Yeah, definitely a grumpy sunshine.
So wait, what does Sophie do that she can just drop everything and go on a tour bus?
She does social media promo for the band, and so she gets hired by Brenna, who's like their manager, like, you know, I guess who does their PR to go along and do like, you know, do social media and take care of like do the photos and all the marketing and promo for them.
Okay.
And Scotty is annoyed because Brenna hired Sophie behind his back, but that's a separate story.
So she is going on tour with them
So
officially.
that's how I mean. Okay, so
Yeah.
gotcha.
And he just doesn't know it. And then he's like, why don't we add this extra duty to your assignment?
Gotcha.
Okay.
It sounds silly, but you'll get it once you.
It works. It works.
It totally works.
It works. Like,
Nice.
you know, I mean,
Alright.
I remember I had a friend who was starting the series, and I was like, I remember I DM'd you, Beth, and she's like, if she doesn't like Scotty, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We might not be friends no more.
I might have to disown her. Luckily, she did love Scotty, so all was well. All was well. I know. But yes, I just had to start off with Scotty.
Love it.
The next one is J.C. Lee's Booked on a Feeling. The book basically starts with the heroine, Lizzie. She is a lawyer, and she basically has an anxiety panic attack and just faints in court. His friend, the best friend, Jack, is there. And so she decides that what she needs, she just has to take some time off and move back home and like run this bookstore. And he's there to help her run the bookstore. All the while, like, you know, having pants feelings and feeling like he can't do anything about the pants feelings. But, you know.
They will. It'll be okay.
Okay. It'll be okay.
That was on our shelf. I had looked at that one. I was like,
yeah. I love J.C. Lee in her book. She also does great food descriptions, which I love. Like reading that, I remember reading that book made me so damn hungry.
Same as when I read a Jackie Lau, though. Like, let's be real.
Oh gosh, yes. The Professor Next Door is part of her Cider Bar Sisters, and the hero is David, who's like a college professor, who ends up being the next door neighbor to Nicole, and they just end up having this. They just end up getting it on, but like decide it's not like it's just sex, right? And then at one point she gets sick, and she calls her family to ask for this like recipe because, you know, she's like, well, I'm cooking anyway, so it's not like a big deal, right? I'm just making something for her, and the whole family meanwhile is on the alert, like, what, you're cooking for him? Well, what? And then she's like she's trying to cook. It's no big deal. Okay, like Luke did when he said, yes, I made Rachel's soup, but it's just
right.
soup. Yeah. And I guess what I loved about this trope is the way it just makes them vulnerable in a way to get to know each other on a different level, and it kind of just forces her to deal with the fact that maybe I do have stupid feelings for this guy if I'm going to all this trouble to make food for him and take care of him while he's sick, you know. You know, and then Forbidden, Ms. Bev. How could I not include a Ms. Bev on my list?
We got to have her here a couple years ago. We had her, Miss Bev, Jessica Pride, and Allie Parker on when Black Love Matters was published. And that was like a dream come true. Anyway, I digress. We have that on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it.
Like, even if she says it's okay, I can never call her by her name. She's Ms. Bev. I cannot call no, never. Well, Forbidden basically starts with Edie getting deserted in the middle of the desert because the guy, like, she was paying to take her to where she was going, did not had, let's just say, dishonorable intentions. So she just ditches her. And basically, she is like basically this close to death from like heat stroke before Ryan finds her and takes her back to his saloon. And she is like the world's most cranky patient, and she wants to be up and doing. And it was so great. This, you know, like all he wants to do is just like, it's like, just all he wants to do is just take care of her, and she's having none of it. She's like, I'm gonna earn
fine.
my key. I don't trust you. You're too good looking. You know, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And what I loved about that is like it just kind of showed who they both were in a really great way. Like, the
Mhm.
whole show don't tell thing.
Mhm.
And like, and she wants to just get a job or pay, earn her keep and pay. And he's like, just stay there. It's fine. Just
Lay
stay,
down.
stay there. Do you need water? Let me get you water. And she's like, and I remember at one point, like, she tries to walk and she can't do it. And he just looks at her. And I'm like,
Hmm. We love a
I've
man.
dealt, I've dealt with that. Like, I remember my dad had hernia surgery. And like 2 days later, he's like trying to cook and like and clean the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I
Lisa, we lost you a little bit. You're frozen.
think you're a little frozen.
I'm not frozen, am I?
No, and I
No.
don't think I am either. Lisa,
Oh,
where?
oops.
She's in the desert. Come back.
Let's see. Oops. Well, while we're waiting,
Yes. Do you want to go and talk about your book?
yeah, let me talk about my books, then hopefully
Yep,
Lisa
and
will
I think that
just,
Lisa will join us again.
yeah. So I'll just blaze through mine because we're coming up on the hour. But along
Okay.
this caretaking theme, these are my three that I picked. I wanted to highlight a brand new one that just came in. You can put it on hold right now, but it's called Role Playing by Kathleen Yardley. Kathleen Yardley is also an Asian American romance author, which is awesome. And my favorite thing about this is that both of the protagonists are around 50 years old. So this is showing a more seasoned romance, happily ever after for everyone. And it was just really lovely. It's about two nerdy gamers who kind of have like a mistaken identity thing going on when they're playing online games. And they finally meet in real life when he accidentally hurts himself and he's like, I need you to come help me. I can't stand up. He hurt his leg. And she thinks he's like a 20-something-year-old guy and he thinks she's like a 70, 80-year-old woman because his mother is the one that kind of introduced. He's like, oh, you should talk to this woman who lives in our town who plays the same silly game you play online. So you should pick that one up. And what I really loved about
Lisa's
it,
back.
yay, Lisa. I'm just going through mine while you get sorted, so take your time. He is a end of life care nurse, and he nursed his father through death. And when he's so used to doing for everyone, and in this book, the heroine, eventually takes care of him, and he's just so not used to literally anybody taking care of him that he like kind of struggles against it, but then finally is like, wow, this is really nice. And she's like, people should take care of you. You deserve that just as much as all the work you do for others. So it was just really sweet to see that, and I loved it so much. Did you read this one, Lisa?
Which one?
Role playing?
Yes, it's
Yes,
so good.
it's so good.
That such a mind, like it was like mind blown.
Mhm.
I take care of people, but I should let people take care of me too. Was so mind blowing. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm. All right. And then my next one I chose, it was one of my favorite historicals of last year, and one because it's set in Austria and not England. So that was a fun change of pace. And she is this plucky hotel owner with a kind of a crumbling hotel in Vienna. And
uh, I went
she's
to
like,
Vienna last summer and I loved it. My sister and I went for. I love
yes.
Vienna so much.
Yes,
It's
I want to
gorgeous.
go. I want to go. So this hotel is it used to be very famous and beautiful, but it's kind of fallen on hard times because her mother kind of let things go and wasted money and became a mistress of this rich man with maybe not the best intentions, and our heroine may or may not be secretly related to the Austro-Hungarian emperor. And there's like a mystery going on, and this FBI or this, I call him FBI, but the FBI didn't exist in the 1800s, but we'll just go with it. He's sent from America to investigate this telegram that got sent from a spy in America. And, it's messy, but he is there and he's staying at the hotel and he's just enchanted by this lovely hotel woman, but he is not there for falling in love or all the wild Viennese balls and parties, and he's just very starchy and uptight. But then the both of them are like, she gets attacked in the ballroom and he has to take care of her wounds, and then he gets attacked too, and it's just a lot of caretaking throughout, like very equal on both sides, and it's just gorgeously written, very sexy. I loved it so much, so definitely put that one on hold. And then
my friend Elizabeth Bright is such a huge Diana Biller fan, and her books are on my TBR. I feel like I need to put it at the top. At this
yes,
point.
this is probably my favorite by her, but I've truly loved them all, so you can't really go wrong. She has 3. Yeah. And then I had to mention Kate Claiborne, who's one of my all-time faves, writing contemporary right now. And we actually had her on for her most recent book, Georgie, all along. But I wanted to highlight Love It First because the hero is an ER doctor and he encounters the heroine, who he's kind of in this very, they're having kind of like a prank war because he's trying to turn the apartment below her into a rental, and she's in the other people living in the apartment building aren't happy about it. So she's been kind of like throwing the other like kind of nosy seniors in his path and doing some stuff to kind of pester him, and they end up finding wild cats, like kittens, living in his closet.
Oh
She's like,
my.
he's like, what did you do? Why does my apartment smell? But this time it's not her fault. And then he's like, you need to get these cats out of here. And she takes the cats in, and then she's like, he noticed she's kind of like disappears for a while, and he kind of asks, like, she's like, where did Nora go? Like, what happened? And they're like, oh, she's sick. And he like kind of loses his cool because he's so worried about her. And it turns out she's like deathly allergic to the kittens, but still trying to take care of
Oh God.
and so
Oh
he like
gosh.
he decides he takes the kittens, he's taking care of them, he cleans everything, and he writes her a script for like the really good nasal decongestant. He drops a well-deployed baby, which I normally don't like in real life, but when it's well deployed in a book, I'm like, and it's just, and he just, it's so nice, and I loved it so much. And it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet retelling in a way, and you can see little glimpses of it. So yay.
Kate is so good. Kate
She's
is
so
just
good.
so good.
It's so good. It's
Yeah.
wild.
So we are a little after time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so let's skip my books because
Are you sure?
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll
'cause
include
they
them
can-
anyways in our wrap up, but do you want to quick finish up,
also
Lisa?
yep, Lisa, you finish up. I'm not sure if one of them is an HEA because I didn't finish it yet, but it seems like it's heading there. I'm hoping it will
be. Don't betray us, Amy.
I'm so sorry about that. My damn Wi-Fi connection was wonky, and that's why
That's okay.
and it kicked me off the Zoom. So I'm really sorry about that, everyone.
No worries. It happens.
So basically, about that night, I am an unabashed Julie James fangirl. I wish she was still writing. But the heroine Rylan suffers from migraines, and there's this one where she is down with a really bad migraine, and the hero Kyle, aka the Twitter terrorist, just celebrated a really big win, and he was supposed to like be celebrating with his like business partner and stuff, but instead he comes over and helps take care of her with her migraine. He massages her temples, he gives her caffeine, and he's just there for her. And it's like, oh, like,
your heart.
I know. And then in How to Lose a Duke in 10 Days, basically this is a marriage of convenience story, and she's the heiress who's bringing money to the equation to help save the dukedom. You know how that goes. But her
Mm-hmm.
one rule is he's like, when they made this ranger, he says he wanted to go to Africa on safari and stuff. And her deal is you go to Africa safari, but you don't come back. But he does come back because he got attacked by a lion, as one does.
It does happen. It's one of the
You know,
Like,
it's
this is
dangerous
kinda
on safari.
a little
right.
bit like the Lorraine, like a little bit like the whole
Lorraine.
Lorraine, Heath, and the gorilla thing. That's what you would have also bonded over.
Occupational
But,
hazards of a safari.
Yeah.
But he comes back, right? He's like, after this near-death experience, it's kind of like, it's time for me to come home, see to the future, and fix this marriage and all this other stuff. And he sees this doctor who recommends, I guess, the Edwardian version of physical therapy. So they have this deal where he has to spend like an hour with him every day while they do his PT and helps him with the stretching exercises and stuff to increase his mobility, like blood flow and mobility and stuff like that. And that is kind of like how they bond and let down their guard with each other. And that is where he finds out her secret and kind of like why she felt driven into this marriage and how her convinced her to let him stay after 10 days. So,
All right.
yes.
Yeah.
And really quick, the last one, To Tempt a Scandalous Lore by Liana de la Rosa. There is a cholera outbreak. And the two of them, Niall and Alicia, they're kind of having this flirtation, but then he finds out that he has political aspirations, and he finds out that she is the anonymous writer who's been kind of like attacking him. And then they have a little incident, and they kind of have to. There's a so they have to get married. But then he gets struck down with cholera, and he takes care of them. So that is the way to bring them closer together and to get over all that anger and resentment about both of them being forced into this situation, and and a way for them to bond and and get to know each other really, and understand each other beyond their preconceptions about why she's doing this and what he's doing and all that other stuff. It's good. So those are my
Very
recs.
cool. I love her. Awesome. We'll just show everyone Amy's. I'm excited to read the Sophie Irwins.
The Sophie Irwins are really fun. The one that I'm really hoping for a happy ending, capture what we cannot keep, because I'm at the denouement, but it's so good. It's about it's set in France. It's the building of the Eiffel Tower. It's engineers. It's this a Scottish widow who's the chaperone for these 20-something out of control 20-somethings.
Love a widow. Yes.
So that was really fun. And I Kissed Shadow Wheeler is a YA, which I'm not even sure it's a romance, but it's really, really fun. And it's by the same author who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue.
I still haven't seen that yet.
It was cute. I watched it. It was cute.
Okay.
So
an adult.
Did they stay pretty close to the book, or did they really make drastic changes, would you say?
I think they kept the spirit of the book. One of the characters that I liked from the book didn't make it, which was kind of a sad to me, but other than that, I had a good time. More like that, please.
Excellent.
All
I'm
right.
just going to hold these up because we're so glad that you came, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yes.
And
these are wonderful.
Library. I love libraries. They have a special place in my heart. Like I said in my acknowledgments, my parents took me to the library regularly as a kid, and that is the reason why I'm the reader that I am. Like it.
Well, come to our library.
You guys understand. It drives me nuts when parents try to dictate what their kids read. I'm like, let the kid read Captain Underpants. I know you want him to read Shakespeare and Tolstoy and all that stuff, but if you don't let them read Captain Underpants, they're never going to get there. So let them read Captain Underpants.
Right.
They'll get
the public
there.
libraries for fun. We're here for fun. Like they'll read that in
Like
school.
reading is supposed to be fun.
That's what's
It's not supposed to be a chore like eating your vegetables.
no.
It's supposed to be
Nope.
fun.
It
Come
is.
to our library. Come
Yeah,
and
come
see
visit
Beth.
Milwaukee. We'll have you.
Yep.
Finish that next book. Get over here.
Yeah, get it done.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
for
promise
those of you,
I will go to Wisconsin someday and I'll have a bratwurst.
Yes, please. I can make you some.
And frozen custard.
In frozen custard. Well, coming up soon for more romance-related things at the Milwaukee Public Library, I am the host of the in-person East Branch Pop Genre Book Club, so we'll be reading Witchful Thinking and discussing it on October 3rd, and then on December 5th, we'll be actually reading Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I figured we'd jump on the bandwagon for that.
Yeah.
You can sign up for reminders on mpl.org, and then just tooting the horn for one more in-person event at my branch. We're going to be hosting author Kurt Dietrich of the upcoming Never Given Up, The Life and Music of Al Jarreau, who is a Black jazz musician with strong Milwaukee ties. So definitely come check that out and get that book. And then that's all I have. And again, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. We're so pleased.
Thank you so
to
much for
have had
having
you.
me.
Yep. And then
and being
everyone go put
patient
these
with
on
my
hold.
Technical difficulties. And thank you. It always makes me so happy when I see my book on shelves and in libraries.
I was
Here,
I'm
Beth,
staging
let's hold
like
them
a
up
photo
together.
soon.
Beth,
Oh,
Beth,
okay,
let's
ready?
hold them up together. Yep.
Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. You did this. That's so great.
You did. Yay.
So feels so surreal. I don't know how that happened.
Your hard work. And for everyone out there
Thank you.
listening, we will email you with the complete list of all the books we talked about tonight, along
And I'll
with
find that
Lisa's.
Nora Roberts. I'll find which
Yes.
Nora Roberts it was.
The mystery will be
225. When I
solved.
saw
Yes,
she had
please.
225 books, I was just like,
Mhm.
I will
Yes,
do that
I'm
later.
deeply, deeply invested in this mystery. I need to know.
Awesome. Well,
I
before
will
we
give
leave,
you an
just tell.
HEA.
Yes. And then Lisa, to just tell everyone where they can follow along with you, and we will send that information out as well.
Okay, I am at La Foresta One on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram. I'm an author Lisa Lin on Facebook. I'm hardly ever on the Facebook. Best way to get a hold of me is probably on the gram at this point, or Blue Sky. I'm not as much on Twitter as I used to be. Damn you, Elon. But yeah, tweet me.
Awesome.
Come talk to me. I'm there.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Enjoy
guys
your evening.
so much for having me.
And yes, we will
You
be
too.
in touch.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.